Hello, this is Chad Middleton, your vocational expert, and I want to do a video today about what I'm hearing from many of my veterans regarding fear of getting their rating reduced. And I'm sharing my opinion because a lot of veterans are not interested in pursuing a claim because they fear that the VA is going to reduce their rating. All right, so let me tell you my experience. Can the VA reduce your rating? Absolutely, they can. But I have a problem when there is irrational fear about reducing a rating that stops you from pursuing a claim that you feel is going to be beneficial. All right. I don't want my veterans to allow fear to stop them from pursuit of a claim that they feel is justifiable. Can the VA reduce your claim? Yes, they can. But the VA can only do this with proper justification. The VA is not in business to reduce your claim. It's called the Veterans Benefits Administration. All right. They are awarding and determining whether or not you will receive benefits. So the system is not set up to reduce your benefits. In other words, they're not set to reduce benefits. However, if the VA has information suggesting that your benefits should be reduced, then they could. All right. So let's talk about this for a second. TDIU. TDIU is a claim for people who feel that they are unable to work due to the severity of their service-connected disabilities. Okay? And when you file for TDIU, it's obvious that you already have a service-connected disability rating. In order to substantiate or to determine the severity of your ratings, the VA should schedule a CNP exam. Okay? During the CNP exam, they're going to be looking at all of your disabilities, all of them. Whatever your disability rating is, they're going to do or schedule a CNP exam for all of your conditions to determine how your disabilities uh, impact your ability to work. Okay? So, in this hypothetical, you have a person that has been rated for epilepsy, all right, seizure condition. And they were rated 60% for a seizure condition that happened 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago, they was rated 60% for a seizure condition. They have other conditions as well. Let's say they have a 70% rating for PTSD. Let's say they have a 30% rating for migraines, and they have an overall rating of 90%. So this veteran is applying for a TDIU because he feels that the combination of all his conditions should warrant a favorable determination for TDIU. Well, the VA is going to set up CNP exams for all of his conditions, all right? Migraines, epilepsy, seizures, mental health, okay? During the CNP exam, it is noted by the CNP examiner that there are records that support no seizures within the last year, seizures controlled with medication, no medication taken for a seizure condition. Well, with this type of documentation, with this type of evidence, the VA can say, yes, although you were rated 60% for your seizure condition 10 years ago, there has been no records to substantiate your condition getting worse, but actually records suggest that your condition has improved, or there are no severe functional limitations that support your condition remaining at 60%. So the VA proposes to reduce your rating from 60% to 30% for the one seizure condition. Can that happen? Absolutely. But let's pump our brakes just for a second. If that's the case, that's justifiable. All right, you're looking for an increase in your rating. The VA is exploring the severity of your conditions. You have no information to support your seizure condition getting worse. So the VA can go in and say, yes, although you've applied for TDIU, we determined after a CMP exam, after thorough uh, examination of your past records, your medications, and such, your seizure condition is proposed to be reduced to 30%. All right, thus decreasing your rating from 90% to 80% or 70%. Yes, that can happen. If that were to happen, a veteran can appeal that decision and share medical records and evidence to support that their condition is still yet severe. Now, if you have no records to support that, then yes, your rating can be reduced, and there's nothing you can do about it unless you provide more documentation to support the severity of your condition. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. So if you're a veteran that you're applying for TDIU, because one of my veterans told me, like, well, I'm kind of scared applying to TDIU because I don't want them to take away my disability. Well, listen, the VA can, but they cannot do it without substantial documentation. They're not just reducing you for no reason. And if you're not being treated for your condition, if your condition is not severe, if you're not taking medication, yes, after a CMP examination and there's no complaints, there's no records, there's no evidence that your condition is still yet limiting, the VA can reduce your rating. All right. So if that is not the case for you, if you're currently being treated, if you're still taking your medication, if you're being treated by a private doctor and VA doesn't have records of those doctor's appointments, then all you would have to do is submit that information. The VA sends you a proposal to decrease. You submit your additional private records, and then the VA says, okay, well, you got me. Your rating goes back to 60%. Okay? Now, if you're sitting on 60% and you know your disabilities are not severe and you're afraid of losing your 60%, then yes, I understand you not wanting to go the TDIU route because the VA is going to schedule a CMP exam with the CMP examiner, and they're going to review any records that you have to identify what your current limitations are and whether or not your condition stops you from working. Okay? Now, on the flip side of that, you also have a vocational evaluation where your condition is going to be assessed by the vocational evaluator like myself, and I'm going to ask you questions about your treatment. All right? You haven't been treated in a year, 2 years, you're not taking any medication. You're not going to any therapy, you're not seeing a doctor at all, then yes, it's hard to identify any limitations associated with that condition. Okay? So I wanted to put some perspective on your rating being reduced. It can be reduced if there is evidence to support that your condition has been better. If you've recorded in your medical records not having a seizure in the past 6 months or a year, all right? Your medication is actually helping control the condition. You haven't had a recent doctor's appointment. These things would suggest to a CMP examiner that yes, although the veteran is applying for a TDIU, this one condition is not as severely limiting as another one of his conditions. So when the regional office gets this report, they may propose that your rating be reduced, right? Before the VA can make any determination about any of your conditions, whether positive or negative, they have to send you an adverse action letter. Before they take anything away, they have to send you a letter to say, hey, veteran, based on this information, we're about to reduce your rating. That is your time when you get that letter to provide documentation to stop them from reducing your rating. So if you have medical documentation, any decision that the VA makes is refutable. It's something that you can appeal. Okay, so I don't want you to think that the VA is out to take away your benefits. No, the VA is a very great organization that actually helps veterans by giving them compensation for service connected disabilities. It's your job to produce the evidence to support getting the justification for the compensation. All right. So the VA is not in the business of trying to take your benefits. I always tell my vets, don't take this process personally. The VA is not looking to take anything away. However, when reviewing your medical documentation, they see that there's no treatment. They see that your condition, you report that your conditions are getting better. They see that with medication, your conditions are controlled. They see that there is no recent uh, doctor's appointments or anything that suggests that you are still struggling with the problem over a course of time, then the VA can surmise that that condition is either controlled and static or has it been improved through medical intervention. Okay? So, vets, I know you have fear because entering into this system, it can be overwhelming and you don't know who's behind the scenes making these decisions about whether or not you should get these benefits or not. I get it. And there are some veterans, there are some employees at the VA that are very overzealous and they look for certain things to justify any actions that are being taken. They're good workers, they're bad workers in every job. But the VA is not personally trying to take away your benefits. All right. That is my take. That is my opinion. I'm a former employee of the VA. I don't know anybody that was at the VA saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to take these benefits away from this veteran. This veteran is making too much money. Now, I know you may feel that way. I know based on the letters that are given to you, based on the decisions that are making, you may feel like someone is out to get you. The VA is not. They deal in production, they deal in claims, and it's your job to produce evidence to support your claim for benefits. All right. Sometimes those claims get lost. Sometimes people just skip over the claim. Sometimes, in the hustle and bustle of case management, somebody may overlook something. I am just willing to believe that that happens at times. All right. But I don't believe these veterans or these employees are going in trying to reduce your ratings. Now, you can disagree with me. You can disagree with me. All right. And I don't mind you disagreeing with me, but I've helped hundreds of veterans and I've worked with the VA regional office before. And in my 20 plus years of doing this work, I have yet to see one person that intentionally looks to reduce your ratings. It doesn't happen. Okay? It doesn't happen. And even if it is one person that is doing that, you still can appeal, provide documentation, and they can reverse the decision. Okay? Talk to me. All right? Call my office up, set up an appointment, or even put it in the chat about what you feel about reducing your rating. Because in TDIU, they are reviewing all of the systems that you are service connected for. Musculoskeletal, they're looking at sleep apnea, they're looking at neurological conditions, they're looking at mental health, they're looking at all of your systems, cardiac systems, your lungs. They're looking at everything and they're doing a CMP exam based on the conditions that you have already been rated for. And they're reviewing the severity of those conditions as it relates to your TDIU claim. This is why it's so important for you to have a vocational evaluation report. And this is also why you should have recent medical records to support your claim. As a vocational expert, I'm not going to say you're unemployable just because you feel that you're unemployable. I have to have records to support my findings. I must see what your limitations are. I must see what type of medications you're taking. I must see your progress notes and what you're complaining about, and how your conditions are being controlled. And in that information, with that information, I am placing this information in your vocational evaluation report to summarize how these limitations are affecting your ability to work various jobs as they exist in the national economy. Hopefully, you're picking up what I'm putting down. So, when you're applying for TDIU, understand that can it happen? Yes, it can happen. But the VA has to have evidence to support that. So no one can just reduce your rating just because. Can't happen. You provide medical documentation, you provide medical evidence, you're being treated, and your doctors are all in support of you having the condition with your limitations. There's nothing the VA can do about that. All right. But if you go to a doctor, the VA is going to also send you to a doctor that's equivalent. If you go to your back doctor, and your back doctor say that you have severe limitations, the VA is going to set you up a CMP exam with a medical examiner that is specializing in back conditions as well. And they're going to compare the two, and they're going to make a determination as to how your back condition affects your ability to do certain types of tasks and activities. Okay? So, just putting this information out there to some of my veterans, put it in the chat. I'm going to respond to whatever messages that you list, and I know you may disagree with me with this, but the VA is not seeking to reduce your rating. All right, Chad Middleton, vocational expert. I'm just trying to stir the pot up a little bit and trying to get my veterans that's considering TDIU to consider it. All right, don't let fear govern whether or not you're eligible for this claim. The VA has identified vocational experts as credible in determining your vocational potential. All right, I work with the Social Security as a vocational expert. I work with the Department of Veterans Affairs as a rehabilitation counselor, and I have years of experience of doing vocational evaluations. This information is credible in determining what types of jobs are available for someone with your disabilities. Okay, so call our office 803-563-5087. Check us out online at www.vcandvc.com, or email us at admin, ADMIN, at vcandvc.com, or just comment on the video. Tell me that you're interested in our services. Let's set up a consultation and let's talk about this a little more. God bless you. Have a happy weekend, rest of the year, and I look forward to talking to you guys real soon. Thank you.